Without further more ado, I'd like to introduce the Chief Executive of the Booktrust, Viv Bird, to open this very interesting and important conference. Thank you.
By combining our passion for reading, our passion for improving social mobility, we can truly use books to change lives.
Parents, whatever their social background, their ethnicity, whatever, want the best for their child. They have different definitions of best. And that's really the important job I think the Booktrust do through health visitors, you know, at that very early age, presenting a book. My mum had this instinctive feel that books were good. As I say, no real proof that that was the case. No one in her family had ever got on to that extent or gone to university or anything like that. But how do we ensure that parents understand the value?
One of the first things I said when I became Children's Laureate was that I wanted to encourage schools that didn't already do this, particularly primary schools, to have a 10-minute storytelling time every day where the teacher would read stories to their pupils. And I think it is so important to it gets children into that love of stories, so they want to seek out their own stories. And so I think it is vital, but I just find it fascinating that, for example, school libraries in this country aren't mandatory, but a library in a prison is. Now, I mean, what's up with that? You know?
It's not just reading yourself that's important, it's reading also as part of a social activity. And I think that is desperately important in getting children to see books as something that you derive pleasure from rather than something that you're required to do. And if you can just get that little bit of bait into a kid that makes them recognise that they can derive immense personal satisfaction and illuminate their own little world from the written word, that is a fantastic gift.
Actually having a book, having your own book and being able to read and reread it at your leisure and go back to it, I think is crucially important.
I think my dad was absolutely wrong when he said I'd never learn anything from fiction, because I think that the emotional intelligence any emotional intelligence I have came from fiction books. I think they promoted empathy. They made me aware of all of our similarities and our differences. And it was from that love of reading that I got the love of wanting to know more, wanting to read more. It was the love of kind of fiction and non-fiction. But I think I wouldn't be sitting here today as a writer or as Children's Laureate if it hadn't been for my local libraries.
Reading is absolutely vital. This isn't an option. I know that we're talking about a love of reading, and any kind of reading will make the difference to the most vulnerable children's lives. That 2 in 3 children who are on free school meals don't get GCSE English and mathematics. It's an absolute disgrace. That is not helping social mobility at all. So there is reading for pleasure, but actually reading is a skill, is a life skill that you need in order to get on in life.
So for adults, we need to find lots and lots of different ways of engaging them in reading for pleasure, because it isn't something that will come naturally to a lot of them. And things like the quick reads, you know, these are books that are written by famous authors, but they're written in a way that adults can access them. They're really important. A lot of the family learning initiatives that are around are really important as well. And it isn't only by going to a class in a college and improving your literacy in order that you can get a job. That's not what it's all about. It's about so many other things than that.
It's about stories, reading for meaning, sharing stories, the connectivity it gives us a sense of ourselves, a sense of our place in society and a sense of our place in the world, which, especially at the younger ages, you get from books. I don't think you get the same experience. You can get the same experience in an app, which is not to say that I don't believe in using apps as well. I think we need a multi-pronged approach on this, but we certainly need physical books.
There are other ways of doing it, and I don't really care whether kids learn from a book or whether they do it from their iPad or different. It's just the reading and what they themselves can get from the reading. And I wouldn't like to be too prescriptive about, well, we liked libraries when we were young, therefore that's how we should do it now. Find ways that children can get into that world of books and that world of literature and learning in the way that they want.
But reading's a social activity, not only an activity that you do on your own. And I have to say, I think the closing of libraries is an absolute tragedy in this country. It really is.
And it's all very well to talk about reading for pleasure and storytelling time and whatever, but if it's not backed up by the schools having a library where children can go and again pick out the books they want, etc., and get into that reading habit, then it's just talk.
Children need stories. They need to be fired up. And if you can make that connection with them by whatever means possible, that opens a door to them that might otherwise remain shut.
The Publishers Association, we have 115 member companies and all have a very strongly felt interest in promoting literacy and reading for pleasure. You know, in a country like the UK, no one expects governments to determine every stage of a person's life or even to guarantee certain outcomes. But I think what we do expect, and indeed what politicians aspire to do, and as we've just heard, this has got nothing to do with party affiliation, is to ensure that people are helped to achieve their full potential. And as publishers, we believe that promoting literacy and reading for pleasure is definitely part of that aim. Because in this political climate where resources do remain highly stretched, it's more important than ever that the state and the private sector and charities work together to tackle the country's literacy deficit and promote reading for pleasure. So in short, the Publishers Association and its members are staunch supporters of the tireless work being done by Booktrust in this area, and we're looking forward to doing even more.